Good evening and welcome to the Daily Report. It's the 1st of May. Happy Labor Day. We tell you all the things that have been happening within the country and across the borders. And later on, we tell you all that is going on in the world of sports. But first, the highlights. Tonight, Labor Day celebrations in Kenya, optimism clashed with apprehension as citizens hoped for a rise in the minimum wage.
Mwaka huu lazima tuwe na mpango ya kuongeza minimum wage. That we must do.
Ile percentage amesema ni kidogo sana, manake ni 6%. 6% ukiangalia maisha ambayo tunaishi kwa sasa, vitu zimepanda.
Also tonight, rescue operations to the flood-stricken area of Mai Mahiu, Nakuru County entered day 3 today, activating further after the deployment of the KDF and NYS to assist in the operations.
Kushukuru serikali sababu imechukua hatua ya kuhakikisha kwamba watu wamefika hapa kutoa mili.
And in the meantime, floods continue rendering various parts of the country marooned, roads impassable and homes uninhabitable.
Venye unaangalia ukiona pande hii unaona mafuriko yamebeba daraja yote. Ukiangalia hii daraja ilijengwa ikiwa chini sana mpaka inafungia watu usiku ya kwenda nyumbani.
All right, welcome once again to this live broadcast. My name is Hibak Said. On sign language interpretation tonight is Rhoda Nyamai. Amidst Labor Day celebrations in Kenya, optimism clashed with apprehension as citizens hoped for a rise in the minimum wage. President William Ruto vowed to bolster workers' earnings, yet underlying economic strains hinted at tougher times ahead. Recent deductions and fiscal challenges pose hurdles, leaving Kenyans cautiously optimistic amidst looming uncertainties. Ann Odida tells us more.
As Kenyans marked Labor Day today amidst the celebrations, there loomed a shadow of uncertainty despite the hopeful anticipation for a boost in the minimum wage. Whispers of tougher times ahead echoed through the crowd. President William Ruto's address at the 59th International Labor Day celebrations at Uhuru Gardens hinted at the government's determination to enhance workers' earnings. However, amidst the promises, the government has outlined that it is grappling with its own financial burdens, struggling to manage escalating wage bills, while at the same time striving to meet ambitious fiscal targets.
Kenya is going to be built by us. Every Kenyan has a responsibility to participate in the building of our nation.
However, even as the government acknowledged the plight of its citizens, recent deductions from workers' salaries, including the reviewed 1.5 housing levy and the impending shift deductions, cast a pall over any immediate relief.
We are not going to expect others to build this nation for us. We are not going to expect resources from others to build this nation. It is first and foremost our responsibility.
Despite calls from trade unions for wage increases, Jacqueline Mugo, CEO of the Federation of Kenya Employers, pointed out the absence of a legal framework to support such adjustments.
So I do implore us all as labor sector leaders to delink wage adjustments, including statutory minimum wages, from the National Labor Day celebrations.
Francis Atwoli, the Court to Secretary General, lauded the President's efforts in advocating for workers' rights, yet pleaded for a substantial increase of at least 22.5%.
But I don't know what is in your pocket. Kama unaweza kunja macho, because Jacqueline said, oh, general wage increase, that is employer now. Na tunaomba yeye atupatie 22.5% or whatever he has put in his pockets.
In response, President Ruto directed the Ministry of Labour to activate various wage councils mandated by the 2007 Labour Relations Act to foster harmony and manage labour disputes effectively. However, whether these measures will suffice to alleviate the growing concerns about livelihoods remains uncertain. It is another Labour Day without a review of the minimum wage had been anticipated by majority of Kenyans who thronged Uhuru Gardens to celebrate this day that celebrates them. But there might be hope, as President William Ruto has directed that the Ministry of Labour will sit down to look at how they can increase the minimum wage by at least 6% this year. Ann Odida, TV47 at Uhuru Gardens, Nairobi.
Thank you, Anne. The employment industry is changing over time, with observers opining that apart from technology, a lot of the changes are brought about by the new generation joining the workforce, which bears a different ideology from others before them. Just how are the generation known as Gen Zs changing how we work?
Just to submit to you, when I was growing up as a Gen X, I never asked my mom or my dad why question. It was one of the most dangerous questions to ask.
A conversation that makes sense on Labor Day is one about the ever-changing employment sector. A new phenomenon has been noticed and felt throughout the workplace. Gen Z workers who have a totally different mindset on work compared to Generation Y, otherwise known as the millennials and the others before them.
This is not the first time we are having a generation that exhibits the characteristics of the Gen Z. We kind of associate this current generation as a generation of asking the question why every time.
For example, the conventional 9 to 5 does not sit well with them, especially with the advent of technology.
Don't micromanage me. Don't tell me you should be at work from 9 to 5.
Yes.
I mean, I'm a grown-up. I know how to manage myself.
With the millennials and older generations still insisting on workers being in a certain setup, Gen Zs are adamant that technology makes this unwise.
If it becomes difficult for me, that's when I turn back to you, and we have got phones. So I give you a phone call. If I'm not understanding it, we'll have a Zoom meeting. Demonstrate it for me. I do it, but don't micromanage me.
The older generation, who have some experience working with Gen Zs, suggesting what can be done to improve work delivery of the young people.
Give them the right empowerment, collaborative tools, open communication channels. They don't want a boss, they want a mentor or a coach who they can always soundboard ideas and co-create together. They also want to have a flexibility, because you may be productive in the morning, but me, I'm productive in the afternoon. So you should not give me your time zone to be my time zone. I have my hotspots where my mind flow and I can be creative at a certain moment of time. So give me space to be myself.
And as the country celebrates workers, it is important to note that the change is inevitable, and to ensure a more productive workforce, employers must get rid of the old and embrace the new ideas. Vera Alberta, TV47.
For those insights. Rescue operations to the flood-stricken area of Mai Mahiu, Nakuru County entered day 3 today, activating further after the deployment of the KDF and NYS to assist in the operations efforts that are hampered by the ongoing rains. Our reporter Willie Dennis Njiru tells us more.
Ngeya High School has transitioned to a satellite center that is coordinating security organs, Kenya Red Cross and the affected families, with activated rescue operations following the deployment of the Uniformed Security Service.
Nataka kushukuru serikali sababu imechukua hatua ya kuhakikisha kwamba watu wamefika hapa kutoa mili ambaye zimetolewa. Nafikiria imefika karibu 90 kwa saa hii, na bado kuna mili zingine ambaye hazijatolewa, na tunaona serikali inashughulika kuwatoa.
The military presence here follows President William Ruto's directive Thursday as he visited the flood-stricken area of Kamushira with humanitarian aid already coming in handy.
Tunajua mashida ya chakula iko, shida ya blanketi, mattress na mahitaji ambao walio nayo. Kwa hiyo yote tumekuja kuwashikilia na kuambia tutaendelea kushikiliana kama nchi moja, juu tunajua shida ikipatikana ni yetu sisi zote.
As the heavy downpour rages on with soaked ground, boulders and tree stumps all over, every quarter quiver for the anticipated retrieve period.
Tuendelee kuomba Mungu hii mvua ikuwe ya baraka, ipunguke kidogo, isikuwe ya kumaliza watu wetu. Hata kule Laikipia pia tunaona mafuriko imeanza kupatikana, na tunaomba Mungu isikuwe ya kumaliza watu wetu.
Water cannot change its course. It will never. So I think it will be up to the government now to see that after inspection, what next? If an inspection is done and somewhere is seen that it is not fit for people to stay in, it is my call that people should be relocated.
Families here remain skeptical of the effort administered so far in the rescue mission.
Mito, mambo ya dams na mambo zingine hata madaraja sifanywe inspection. Ile inaonekana inatakikana kurekebishwa.
And with the search and rescue operations entering day 3 here in Mahio, it is intensified and expects to continue in the coming days until the last person is found. Reporting for TV47 from Mahio in Naivasha, Nakuru County, I'm Willie Dennis Njiro.
Thank you, Willie Dennis. Residents in the flood-affected areas continue to grapple with flood damages and losses. Today, 11 people have been rescued in Kitengela, Kajiado County, with over 90 others rescued in Talek, Narok County, following the heavy rains overnight. Sections of major roads, including the Thika Superhighway, have been closed off as water levels are being monitored. Sheila Chelangat now reports of the effects of the wrath of Mother Nature.
The heavy rains continue to trigger widespread flooding, the flood waters invading homes and rendering many roads impassable. The superhighway today was chaotic. Motorists and commuters left stranded for hours.
Kama mlikuwa mnakata maji yede huko, lakini maji hakuna wakati itasubua sisi kama wakazi hapa, na ni kazi ya mtu wa Kenya angefanya hiyo kazi yake.
And minutes to noon, a notice from the Kenya National Highway Authority temporarily closing the road at the Kahawa Skari Drift. Furthermore, the Kedong Ranch Suswa Road has been closed for 12 hours due to heavy debris and siltation over a 2-kilometer stretch. Also closed is the Ewaso Ngiro Narusura Road at the Oldonyo Orasha River crossing. This due to the overtopping of the 120-kilometer vented drift, a result of the heavy raining overnight. In Narok County, River Talek broke its banks, trapping tourists in over 14 tourist camps, and as of 6 p.m. today, over 90 people had been evacuated and most of the affected camps closed.
Wageni ambao walikuwa wako kwa hizi macamps karibu 40 na wote wako sawa, hatujapata vivo yoyote.
In Kitengela, Kajiado County, as of 4 a.m., the Kenya Red Cross had begun rescue operations, answering to distress calls they got as from 2 a.m. in the morning. And as at 10 a.m., 11 people and 1 dog had been rescued here.
Yani tumepoteza mali yetu kwa nyumba, unaona hata kila kitu imeenda, hata unga pia maybe imeingiwa na maji, na saizi hawezi kutoka kwa nyumba, sijui tutafanya nini.
As residents call for urgent intervention, efforts to move those living along riparian areas continues. Sheila Chelangat for TV47.
Thank you, Sheila Chelangat. Tonight, President William Ruto has scoffed at politicians out to criticize his administration without offering solutions to his bottom-up economic agenda. The president further told politicians to stop politicking and propagating tribalism among Kenyans. The president spoke as Nairobi supremacy politics played out during this year's Labor Day celebrations.
Nairobi supremacy politics was part of the agenda in this year's Labor Day celebrations. On a day, President William Ruto told politicians to tone down divisive politics as it was hurting development, while drumming up support on his efforts to reduce the cost of living.
Vile mambo yalivyokuwa mwaka uliopita sio vile yalivyo sasa. Dola yetu imekuja mahali mzuri. Gharama ya chakula imekuja mahali mzuri. Ile interest rate imeanza kuteremka chini. Mafuta pia imeanza kushuka chini. Ile kitu tu bado iko juu ni makelele ya siasa. Tunataka pia hata na hiyo ikuje chini.
Tulieni. Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja said he will not be derailed in his development agenda by people he said have been sent to destabilize his administration.
Ile kazi ambayo tunafanya Nairobi, kuna watu ambao wanataka tupoteze focus. Hatutapoteza focus. We know what needs to be done. We know the progress we are making. So usisikie uchungu. Unajua hata mimi nasikia uchungu nikiona wewe ukipigwa. Na nimeona umeanza kuchokozwa. Lakini usife moyo pia wewe papa. Wale wametumwa kunichokoza pia ndio wametumwa wale wanakuchokoza. Na itaisha.
Na mkiona kiongozi ambaye anaendesha siasa kwa msingi ya ukabila, huyo ni kiongozi bankrupt, kwa sababu mtu akikosa agenda, kama hana mpango, kama hana plan, anaenda kukwama kwa ukabila, kwa sababu ndio ile siasa duni ya nyuma ya mwisho.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who is apparently facing off with Sakaja in the ongoing supremacy battle in the UDA party to claim UDA chairmanship in Nairobi, avoided politics during the event.
Bazenga mwenyewe, Honorable Gakuya. Wapi makofi ya chairman?
Gachagua is supporting Embakasi North MP James Gakuya for the post, a position which Sakaja has already declared interest to vie for. UDA Nairobi MPs have cast aspersions on Sakaja leadership amid graft allegations. UDA will this Saturday hold repeat elections in parts of Nairobi, Narok, West Pokot and Busia, where the elections faced obstacles or failed to take place. Apol Kamau, TV47.
Thank you, Apollo Kamau. And on that note, we go for a very short commercial break. When we come back, more news. Don't go too far.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na Nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus niko niwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee. Soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue. Mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.
Join us on a journey through the concrete jungles and rising skylines, where every beam, every nail tells a story of progress and vision.
In every aspect of life, you have to look at several dynamics.
From groundbreaking.
Nowadays with the tech, you can check on different websites or you check online and you can see some inspiration.
Welcome back to the Daily Report. Doctors in Kenya have been on strike for 5 weeks, demanding better wages and working conditions. President William Ruto says his government does not have the money to pay the medics. Meanwhile, patients remain without care. The question that now lingers among many is, when will this end? Our reporter Elizabeth Atieno now reports on the series of doctor strikes in the country.
As the doctors' strike enters its 49th day, it seems like there is no end in sight just yet. President William Ruto now maintains that the government lacks the financial muscle to meet the medics' demands.
Kati ya mambo nafikiri 19, serikali imekubali mambo 17. Imebaki 2 kwa sababu haiwezekani kwa mambo ya fedha, na wauliza madaktari wetu warudi kazini.
The doctors have been urged to embrace dialogue and resume work as soon as possible to avoid the ongoing disruption of healthcare services.
Tunaomba madaktari wetu, jameni, turudi kwa meza, tumalize mazungumzo yetu ili turudi kutibu watu wetu, sana sana sasa ambapo tuko na jangwa hili la mafuriko.
I want to appeal to the government and the doctors to give social dialogue a chance to resolve the ongoing strike by the doctors to alleviate the suffering of Kenyans.
Tunataka kujieleza kwa njia ya taratibu, bila ya msukosuko ama bila ya kupigana.
The nationwide doctors' strike in the country began on the 14th of March 2024 with at least 4,000 medics demanding higher salaries, better working conditions and the employment of intern doctors as part of a collective bargaining agreement signed in 2017.
Sisi sio wajinga. Kuja kwako tunajua una pesa. Kama hauna tunajua hauna. The CBA has about 40 to 30 clauses. We will look into those areas. Other areas we leave financial aside. We live until we support you to maximize profit, and that profit we will share.
Let's now drive down the memory lane to ascertain how the CBA was reached and why it is yet to be implemented since the 1st of July 2017. On the 5th of December 2016, Kenya witnessed the worst ever doctors' strike, which paralyzed the healthcare system, affecting over 2,500 public hospitals. The industrial action lasted for 100 days. The union was demanding 180% salary increase. On the 14th of March 2017, the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union, then led by Dr. Ouma Oluga, signed an agreement with government officials from Ministry of Health, led by the then Cabinet Secretary Cleopa Mailu, bringing to an end the longest strike to be witnessed in the country. Doctors' first collective bargaining agreement was signed in 2013 with both levels of government. The implementation of this agreement, however, did not happen.
I expect government to back down and resolve our issues in day 200 or day 300. So there's no time of getting tired anytime soon.
Kenya's first ever doctors' strike was in 1982 when Arthur Magugu was the Minister of Health. The crisis emanated as doctors and specialist consultants from the public service tendered their resignation.
5th of November 1971 was the first doctors' strike in Kenya, and I was part of it. And I was collected and thrown into the cells for 3 days.
Kenya has had 3 government administrations since the Doctors' Union was established in 2011. Each government administration has made commitments to improve working conditions but failed to honor them. And now, all eyes are on the current Kenya Kwanza regime to see if they will find a lasting solution to the perennial issue of doctors' strike, as the medic strike is set to enter its 50th day tomorrow. Elizabeth Atieno, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Elizabeth. As the world marks Labor Day here in Nairobi, thousands of workers thronged at Uhuru Gardens to mark this special day. Our reporter Nelson Mwereza interacted with Martin Kipto, a security guard before and after the Labor Day celebrations at Uhuru Gardens.
As the world marks Labor Day, early in the morning, we arrive at Martin Kipto's house in Ngong, Nairobi County. Martin is a security guard and has been serving for 20 years now. We find him ready to leave to attend the labor celebration at Uhuru Gardens. But before he leaves, I requested to have a conversation with him regarding his work as a guard. Martin explains to us that security guards plays a vital role in protecting the country.
Sisi ndio tunakuanga frontline. Na wakati tuko katika frontline ya hii kazi, unakuta ya kwamba kabla polisi wajakuja, sisi ndio huwa tunakutana na ile moto kamili ya shida ambayo imekuja. Hasa kama ni moto imetokea, sisi ndio tutakuwa wa kwanza kuuzima, kung'ang'ana, kuona ya kwamba watu wamekuwa salama.
Despite the challenges that he faces, he reveals his achievement in a span of 20 years serving as a guard and his expectation from the government after the Labor Day celebrations.
Watu bado wajatambua hii kazi ya kwamba ni profession. Watu wanatuona kama tuko watu wa chini sana, tunadunishwa, lakini ukweli ni kwamba sisi kazi ambayo tunafanya ni kazi muhimu sana. Mimi ninatarajia kuona ya kwamba mambo ni mawili. Aidha nipate ile 30,000 ambayo PISRA ilitangaza, ama nipate nyongeza kutoka kwa general wage ambayo aidha serikali itatangaza siku ya leo.
As he closes his door and leaves to attend the Labor Day celebration, Martin is hopeful that the government will address their grievances, which includes increasing of the wage bill. When the celebration came to an end and following President William Ruto's order on the increase in the minimum wage by 6%, Martin is seen dissatisfied with the decision.
Na ile percentage amesema ni kidogo sana, manake ni 6%. 6% ukiangalia maisha ambayo tunaishi kwa sasa, vitu zimepanda, bawabu aliongezewa ama general wage iliongezwa karibu miaka 5 iliyopita, na hadi sasa hakuna kitu imeongezeka, maisha imekuwa juu.
Nelson Mwareza, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, workers united today to celebrate Labor Day all around the world. At Uhuru Gardens, it wasn't any different, as purple dominated the occasion, where workers countrywide waited to hear what the president and the COTU Secretary General would say over various issues troubling the nation. But what are the views of workers on their own day? Our reporter Kiswa Emory with that report.
The entire country has been waiting with bated breath to hear what President William Ruto, as well as the Secretary General of the Central Organization of Trade Unions, Francis Atwoli, as the country continues to grapple with various issues. The doctors' strike that hit its 49th day, teachers threatening to strike, the cost of living still being high, and high taxation are some of the issues Kenyans awaited answers on. Kenyans had mixed views over the president urging the doctors to go back to work, with some supporting the president's sentiment, while others asked relevant authorities to give the doctors what they want so that they can go back to work.
Hii madaktari wamegoma. Kwa nini? Juu wananyanyaswa. Lakini hawa Wakenya wenye wanasukumwa walipe tax. Saa hii wakienda hospitali hakuna huduma.
Wasikisane kwa sababu saa hii shida mingi sana iko Kenya saa hii. Watu wamesombwa na maji, watu wako kwa mahema, watoto wanahangaika, wamama wanahangaika.
With the president saying that taxes must be paid, many Kenyans differed with the president, questioning where the money was going. However, there were those that agreed, saying it is important so as to grow the country.
We are just feeling like we are paying taxes without anything on ground. Mimi sijaona any barabara ame-launch, sijaona any school that is being constructed. I have not seen anything tangible.
Tusipolipa tax, tusipokata ushuru, tutajenga nchi namna gani? Wakenya wagome kulipa ushuru. Kama wewe ni mfanyibiashara, kama wewe ni wakatae kulipa ushuru juu hiyo ushuru haiwasaidii.
Workers in the country are pointing a finger of blame to the Central Organization of Trade Union Secretary General Francis Atwoli for not standing up for their interests.
Ndugu Francis Atwoli anafaa kuresign. Naona ananyamazia mambo mengi sana. Madaktari wamegoma, sijasikia sauti ya Atwoli. Amenyamaza tu. Ni kama anafanya kazi na rais.
Mtu anayesimamia institution hiyo, Francis Atwoli, ashughuliki maneno kama haya. Ni kwa sababu ako in bed na serikali, ameshindwa kufanya kazi yake, anajiangalia yeye mwenyewe.
Even as the country celebrates Labor Day, it seems that Kenyans do not have much to celebrate about. Kiswa Emory reporting for TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Emory. Tonight, we tell you more about the future of Kenya's labor market, keeping in mind that the country is struggling to create employment opportunities and propel more Kenyans into getting jobs abroad. To achieve this, the Executive Director of Federation of Kenya Employers, Jacqueline Mugo, has called for the need to improve skill systems so as to enable Kenyans to compete favorably with other nations in the job market.
The future of Kenya's labor market seems to be hanging in the balance as far as employment is concerned, looking at the huge gap of unemployment in the country and at the same time the country's goal to export labor abroad. It begs the question as to whether the country is on the right trajectory and whether there is a clear policy to increase employment opportunity or not. While marking the 59th Labor Day celebrations, the Executive Director of Federation of Kenya Employers, Jacqueline Mugo, asked the government to find ways on boosting the country's skill systems. This will go a long way to enable Kenyans compete favorably when they go abroad in searching for job opportunities.
The global imbalance in labor supply also points to the importance of migrant workers for advanced economies and labor migration, especially for India and Sub-Saharan Africa. So, Your Excellency, employers support your efforts in advocating for well-regulated labor migration. We need to improve both our skill systems and labor migration policies to ensure that our people who migrate to work can compete for high income and quality jobs.
We have implemented measures to enhance our vocational training across counties. This is aimed at increasing their capacity to equip our workforce with the necessary skills to bridge the gap between available jobs in the market and suitably trained workers.
At the moment, the country is struggling to create employment through the digital transformation, more so among the millions of unemployed youth. However, this leaves a gap as to where the other number of skilled graduates proceed to. The head of state has now assured Kenyans of the need to fast-track the labor laws with other foreign nations.
We are at the advanced stage of concluding several bilateral labor agreements with many countries, including the UK, Germany, Austria, Saudi Arabia, among others. Every Kenyan worker has the right to fair pay and a safe workplace.
At least 1 million fresh graduates are seeking jobs yearly, yet only 200,000 are absorbed to formal jobs each year. After employment, a majority of Kenyans at a lower cadre get an opportunity to earn a minimum salary of at least 15,000 shillings.
And I want to appeal to His Excellency to give infrastructure to our informal sector, to support them and ask governors in various county governments to make sure that markets are built, the informal sector people are not harassed by taxes and so on. These are the people who drive our economy.
This puts the country at a risky platform since development has to take course and at the same time build the future for other young people.
Now let's take a short breather, but when we come back, more news.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na Nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus niko niwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee. Soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue. Mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.
Join us on a journey through the concrete jungles and rising skylines, where every beam, every nail tells a story of progress and vision.
In every aspect of life, you have to look at several dynamics.
From groundbreaking.
Nowadays with the tech, you can check on different websites or you check online and you can see some inspiration. So at least that one would be a direction already. I'll know what kind of style you're going for.
To finishing touches, witness the dedication of the hard-working teams who bring these ambitious dreams to reality.
Welcome back. The Director of Public Prosecutions, Renson Ingoga, has preferred charges against 6 people and companies in connection with the fake fertilizer scandal. They include officials from the National Cereals and Produce Board. This comes as the National Assembly is set to discuss the impeachment motion of Agriculture CS Mithika Linturi. George Maringa tells us more.
The ghosts and echoes of corruption have once again hit the agriculture docket, this time in the Kenya Kwanza administration, if the latest fake fertilizer scandal is anything to go by. At the center of it this time is a cabinet secretary under siege with a looming impeachment motion in the National Assembly, just 1 year and 6 months in office, and 6 persons and companies of interest who the ODPP has preferred charges against. Josiah Kariuki Kimani is director of SBL Innovate Manufacturers Limited and 51 Capital K Limited. He is facing 5 charges, including forgery contrary to Section 345, making a document without authority contrary to Section 357, uttering false documents contrary to Section 353, conspiracy to defraud contrary to Section 317 of the Penal Code, and applying standardization mark to a commodity that does not comply with Kenya's standard contrary to Section 10 and 6 and 10.8 of the Standards Act, Cap 496 laws of Kenya. Joseph Kimote, Managing Director of the National Cereals and Produce Board NCPB, is facing 2 charges: conspiracy to defraud, contrary to Section 317 of the Penal Code, and abuse of office, contrary to Section 46. John Kiplangat Ngetich, the Corporate Secretary, National Cereals and Produce Board NCPB, faces 2 charges as well: conspiracy to defraud as well as abuse of office. John Mbaya Materi, Chairman, Business Committee of the National Cereals and Produce Board NCPB, also faces 2 charges: conspiracy to defraud as well as abuse of office. SBL Innovate Manufacturers Limited is facing 4 charges: conspiracy to commit an offense of economic crime, applying standardization mark to a commodity that does not comply with the relevant Kenya standard, manufacturing for sale substandard goods contrary to the law, and knowingly using labels on bags in connection with the manufacture and sale of organic fertilizer contrary to the law. On the other hand, 51 Capital K Limited is also facing 4 charges: conspiracy to commit an offense of economic crime, applying standardization mark to a commodity, manufacturing for sale substandard goods, as well as knowingly using labels on bags in connection with the manufacture and sale of organic fertilizer.
Order number 8, procedural motion, resolution to hold a Thursday morning sitting.
The fate of Agriculture CS Mithe Kalinturi at the Agriculture and Livestock Development docket hangs in the hands of legislators who are due to debate on his impeachment motion on Thursday. The motion was tabled by Bumula MP Jack Wanami. Among the grounds of impeachment is grossly violating Articles 10, 46, 75 and 207 of the Constitution, Leadership and Integrity Act and Public Ethics Act.
Honourable members, consequently, I find that the proposed motion by the member for Bumula meets the requirements of Article 152 of the Constitution and Standing Order 66 as to form and the threshold required for a member to move a motion for dismissal of a cabinet secretary.
Eyes will be on how the tides sway on the fake fertilizer scandal. George Maringa, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, George. A family in Elwak, Mandera County is mourning the death of its kin who was among the individuals who perished after an improvised explosive device detonated in Elwak town, Mandera County. Chichi Josephine with more on that.
Alex Mutati, a 24-year-old man from Wingemi location, Nowad in Mwingi Central, is among individuals who perished in an improvised explosive device explosion in Elwak, Mandera County on Monday morning.
Tumesikia mlipuko kubwa. Kapiga watu wataka kufa.
The deceased grandfather recalls the last conversation he had with his late grandson.
Niliongea naye Jumamosi asubuhi. Akaniambia, babu, hebu niwekee nzenge. Sababu nikija nitakuja kuoa, ukuje kuona mke wangu na hiyo nzenge, na nikamhaidi itaweka. Na kutokea hapo nilisikia hali yake wakati alipoanzisha hali ya kifo, akawa hatuongei.
The family is now calling on the government to intervene and help them bring home the body for burial.
Tulipatwa na pigo kubwa kwa sababu hatukuwa na namna ya vile tutatoa hiyo miili huko Elwak.
Kwa hivyo tunaomba serikali kama ina uwezo itusaidie kwa njia yoyote ile inapoweza, ili tuwako tunaweza pata hiyo miili yetu kwa pali kila mtoto alipozaliwa.
The suspected improvised explosive device explosion occurred near a police station in Elwak, Mandera County on Monday, with reports indicating that at least 12 people died in the blast.
Kijana nilikuwa ninampenda sana. Miaka yake ni miaka 24. Na yeye alikuwa ni mmoja tulikuwa tunatarajia kwa vile sasa mnendo wake ulipokuwako tutakuwa na mtu wa imani.
Amekuwa mtoto mtulifu, mtoto mtiifu, mtoto mwenye kupenda elimu.
Chichi Josephine, TV47.
Thank you, Chichi. Mombasa zone in Mukuru Kwa Ruben area flooding has left residents terrified of the almost daily deluge. Our reporter Ruga Eval visited the area where she got a chance to discuss the troubles the residents are going through. During the visit, she met a heavily pregnant resident named Valentine Mweni, who is almost due and is terrified of what would happen to her and her new baby.
The heart of Mukuru Kwa Ruben stands a Mombasa zone community, known for its resilience amidst adversity. But today, the landscape is different, transformed by the relentless heavy rains that has led to flooding. As we knock on one of the doors, our eyes are welcomed by an expectant woman, overwhelmed by the rising waters, unsure of where she will deliver from or even seek refuge.
Tuseme tu niko karibu. Sasa shida ni nianze sasa ikianza saa hii. Mzee akula yuko karibu. Sasa ndio nashindwa nitafanya.
Valentine Mweni is almost due, yet here where she resides, she is between the horns of a dilemma. This water has been stagnant for the last 3 weeks. What weighs heavily on her mind is just the uncertainty of getting medical attention. Her husband, however, is hopeful that Mombasa zone Mukuru Kwa Ruben industrial area Nairobi County bears the brunt of floods, a stark contrast to its usual hustle and bustle.
Kwa hii masaa hata mimi naomba Mungu tu amfungafunge siku iruke ndio mambo yaende kuwe poa.
The path we are treading on is a usual route used by the residents as James Mwangi welcomes us with a reality check. The situation is dire.
Hii situation imekuja kuwa once like a month ago. Not a month, it is like 3 weeks ago. Ndio maji ikakuja ilinyesha usiku. Huku ilinyesha kidogo, but asubuhi tukiamka tulipata maji ishaingia kwa nyumba.
It wasn't always this way, as James Mwangi recalls, pointing a finger of blame at the Nairobi County government for poor planning of the drainage systems.
Mvua ya mwisho nyerutatiza kama ilikuwa 2018. Kulinyesha mvua kama hii, lakini nyesha for only 3 days na ikaisha. Hata El Nino haikutu affect hivi. 1997 El Nino haikufika ikiwa. Governor mwenyewe akatuambia mtaro itachimbwa for the last 2 days, hiyo mtaro itakuwa imemalizika, but vile alitoka tu hivi ndio story iliisha.
Amidst the floodwaters, residents have raised concerns, anguish, despair, and frustration emotions dominating their conversations with Governor Sakaja's leadership as they hint at the selfish interests of nearby industries exacerbating the crisis.
Hii maji unaona hili si ya mvua. Hii maji imetoka kwa mto, inaingia sewage iko kwa mto ambayo ina kifuniko, lakini juu ya tamaa ya watu wakamwaga mjanga wakafunika hiyo mtaro. Sasa hiyo maji ikakuja ikaanza kusumbua watu hapa.
According to them, aid remains elusive despite public assurances of support from the county government.
Nilingangana peke yangu. Ukiangalia huku utaona vile hizo viti zimenikata, sababu unaifunga na kamba, unaitega, unavuta pande moja, unafunga pande moja, na kuna maji by that time.
For now, Mombasa zone residents, inclusive of Valentine Mweni, they are hopeful they will eventually get assistance they need. They are not just floods threatening to disease outbreaks, but also the loud silence of accountability from their leaders.
Hata huku kukikosa kunyesha, hii maji inatukuta. Sababu hii maji kuna tunnels zinakuja, maji ziko open. When Ngong River full, hiyo maji inakuja inaingia kwa hizo tunnels, na hizo tunnels ndio zinakuja kutoa hiyo maji, inaingia huku ndio inakuwa inatu affect.